In at number 10, Steve Jobs. The mastermind behind the massive success of Apple and really the technological advancement of smartphones can all be attributed to this man's vision. When Steve Jobs dropped out of Reed College, it left him without a dorm room to sleep in. He was so poor that he had to sleep on friends' floors and return Coke bottles to make whatever money that he could. During a speech at Stanford University, Jobs recalled walking 7 miles across town every Sunday night just to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna Temple. At the time of his death in 2011, the American inventor and business mogul had a net worth of $10.2 billion. In at number 9, Dr. Phil. Coming from very meager beginnings, Phil McGraw was homeless at the age of 12 when his father was interning as a psychologist. Dr. Phil and his father were living in a car in Kansas City while his father was trying to secure a job. McGraw would later get his own bachelor's, master's, and PhD, which would come important to his later career. On his rise to celebrity status though, Dr. Phil joined his father's psychology practice in Texas. Thanks to Oprah Winfrey inviting McGraw on her show in the 1990s, he would soon become a regular on the show. This would then lead to him being able to launch his very own successful advice program. In at number 8, Kelly Clarkson. Before winning the first season of American Idol, Clarkson suffered through a lot of hard times, which just makes her singing "Whatever Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger" feel all the more real. According to a 2011 New York Times profile of Kelly Clarkson, while the singer was in Los Angeles, she ended up living in her car after the apartment that she moved into caught fire. With little to no money and no contacts in LA, Kelly was forced to move back to her home state of Texas. Although it was almost a blessing in disguise. Clarkson was able to audition for American Idol when they rolled through her state. I bet the next time that she went to Los Angeles though, it was pretty bittersweet. In at number 7, Ted Hawkins. Most of the celebrities on this list are riches to rags stories, but for Ted Hawkins, he went from homeless to famous and then back to being homeless. Ted was born and lived in Mississippi for the majority of his life, and at an early age he had some run-ins with the law and was even arrested and sent to prison at 15 years old. Once getting out of jail, he lived as a hobo traveling by train up and down the East Coast. Eventually he found his way to Los Angeles because he assumed being homeless in a warmer climate would be better. Ted loved music, and whatever little money that he made was from playing his guitar on the streets. It was there where he was discovered by a record producer who was able to help Ted make his first and only studio album. Before he passed away in 1995, Ted was able to live out his dream of playing music around the world. In at number 6, Anthony Ciccone. Beginning his professional career as an actor in TV and film before moving into a career behind the camera, he was primarily recognized for being Madonna's brother. He soon was thrusted back into the spotlight in 2013 when he was arrested and charged with felony resisting and obstructing a police officer. Anthony had been living on the streets of Michigan, the city where he and his sister once grew up. However, while Madonna has the key to the city, Anthony doesn't even have keys to a home. He also seems very resistant to any help from his sister. There are several videos online of people recognizing the star's brother on the streets and asking what he thinks about his uber famous sister.
I don't talk to my sister much. I don't pay much attention to her music. We're not really buddies.
In at number 5, Fantasia. After winning the 3rd season of American Idol, Fantasia Barrino was set up to have a fantastic career in the music industry. Her first album, called Free Yourself, even received 3 Grammy nominations. However, by 2009, her $1.1 million home in North Carolina was being auctioned off to repay her massive debts. After defaulting on a $58,000 loan from Broward Energy Management, Fantasia was forced to give up everything. While promoting her VH1 reality series Fantasia for Real in 2010, she was asked about rumors by CNN surrounding Simon Cowell coming in to bail her out. She did not outright deny that she required help from the American Idol creator, but instead she urged people to watch the show to find out. So yeah, he definitely helped her out. In at number 4, Ed McMahon. This comedian and former sidekick to Johnny Carson built a wonderful career for himself in entertainment. He was well known for gifting millions in sweepstake prizes, but in 2008, Ed started to be the one that needed the money. Lenders started going after him after he missed several payments on his $4.8 million home loan that totaled nearly $700,000. During an interview with Larry King, he was asked how he went broke, for which Ed replied, "Well, if you spend more money than you make, you know what happens. A couple divorces thrown in, a few things like that. You want everything to be perfect, but that combination of the economy, I have a little injury, I have a situation, and it all came together. Or it all came undone." In at number 3, Halle Berry. Halle Berry first moved to New York City to pursue a career in acting at 21 years old. Although before she knew it, she had run out of money and her mother decided that the best thing to do was not to send her daughter more cash. This then forced Berry to stay in a homeless shelter and learn to take care of herself. During an interview with Reader's Digest, she said, "It taught me how to take care of myself and that I could live through any situation, even if it meant going to a shelter for a small stint, or living within my means, which were meager. I became a person who knows that I will always make my own way. And make her own way she did. Halle Berry has become one of the most iconic and successful actresses in Hollywood. Today she is one of the highest paid actresses in the entertainment industry and has an estimated net worth of $80 million. Last but not least, in our number one spot, Jim Carrey. According to his biography, actor and comedian extraordinaire was a high school dropout. Although it wasn't because he was failing. His father was a musician who got a regular job to support his children, but when he lost this job, that's when everything started to fall apart. They went from lower middle class to just poor. The entire family was living out of a van, and at the age of 15, Jim quit school to begin working to support his family as a janitor. Although when reflecting on his childhood, Jim said that it was during these tough financial times that he developed a sense of humor. As of 2020, his estimated net worth is $150 million, putting him on that small list of the richest comedians in the world.
Number 10. Terrence Howard. The actor is known for his captivating intensity on screen, and has certainly won him over with fans when he starred as Lucius on Empire. But sometimes art imitates life, and Howard's domineering character was very much a reflection of the actor behind him. His violent tendencies were pretty well hidden from the public eye until 2009, when the Smoking Gun reported that about 10 years prior, the actor was arrested for viciously beating up his estranged wife, Lori McComas. Lori dialed 911 after Howard threatened her over the phone, saying that he was going to come over and hurt her, but it was too late because before the police arrived, he had already broken down the front door of her house and attacked her, punching her in the face multiple times. The actor was charged and pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct, but the incident wasn't a one-off. In 2000, Howard reportedly attacked a flight attendant for asking him to return to his seat because the seatbelt sign was on, and in 2005 he attacked a couple at a diner because they were seated before him. In the years following, he allegedly harmed multiple intimate partners in some of the worst ways possible, but it was a long time before any of these incidents got in the way of his career. Number 9. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was a star of Terminator who eventually became the governor of California, so he definitely belongs in the world of the rich and famous. But few people know that Arnold Schwarzenegger was a very different person out of the spotlight. While he was married to veteran NBC journalist Maria Shriver since 1986, allegations of Arnold's behavior slowly began to surface, and suddenly his political career was facing ruin. In 2003, 15 women came forward claiming that the actor had them during his run for the California governor's seat. Then came the damage control. In an interview with Peter Jennings from ABC News, he tried to deny the accusations and insisted that no one ever came to him in his life and told him, "I don't want you to do that, and you went over the line." In fact, he went on to suggest that the women had actually timed the allegations specifically to match up with his campaign. But it gets worse. In 2011, an explosive Los Angeles Times report was published, revealing that Arnold had fathered a child with the family's housekeeper in the late 90s. It's safe to say that his marriage imploded because Maria filed for divorce on June the 2nd that same year.
In at number 7, Chris Pratt. I will forever know him as Burt Macklin, but ever since his transition from funny guy to action hero, Pratt has really made a name for himself in Hollywood. At 19 years old, Pratt accepted a one-way ticket to Maui, Hawaii from a friend. This is where he would then go on to live in a flea and mice-infested van. During an interview with The Independent, he said it was pretty awesome, adding, "We just drank and smoked weed and worked minimal hours, 15 to 20 hours per week, just enough to cover gas, food, and fishing supplies." While Pratt was waiting tables at the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company in Maui, actress Ra Dawn Chong took notice of his good look and decided to cast him in her directorial debut. The film was called Curse Part 3, which is actually the script that you see Chris holding in the photo of him beside his van. When reflecting on his hard times and this massive opportunity, Chris said, "The moment she told me she was bringing me to LA, I knew. I was like, this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life." And thank God he did. In at number 6, James Cameron. James Cameron is responsible for some of the greatest films in history. From the Terminator to the Titanic, he has had an illustrious career in the entertainment industry. Although before he made it to the big leagues, Cameron was a struggling artist. While he was writing the Terminator, he could barely make ends meet. For a little while, he was even forced to live in his car. However, at that moment, his main concern wasn't money, it was time. Despite the little experience that he had with writing a script, James was determined to get this movie made. He even attempted to pitch his Terminator script, and while most most production companies liked it, they didn't want to put the amateur James Cameron in charge. James was brilliant though. Even then, he decided to partner with producer Gail Ann Hurd, who purchased the rights to his screenplay for $1 so long as she named him the director. The Terminator would go on to make $77 million worldwide. In at number 5, Jennifer Lopez. Before she was crushing it with movies and singing at the Super Bowl halftime show, J-Lo was forced to couch surf because her parents did not approve of her career choice. When she was 18 years old, she told her mother that she wanted to be a dancer, but her mom insisted that she go to college instead. So in an act of rebellion, Lopez moved out and started sleeping on the sofa at her dance studio. During an interview with W Magazine, she said, "I was homeless, but I told her this is what I have to do." And a few months later, she had landed a gig dancing in Europe, and then upon returning to LA, she booked a role on the show In Living Color. Now at 50 years old, her net worth is reported to be $400 million, earning approximately $40 million each year.
Number 3, Ellen DeGeneres. The stand-up comedian and veteran talk show host Ellen was nicknamed the Queen of Nice, with many people loving her signature catchphrase, "Be kind to one another," as well as her on-screen giveaways and vocal support of the LGBTQ+ community. But behind the curtain, Ellen was a very different person entirely. That all got revealed in March of 2020, when podcaster Kevin T. Porter asked people to post stories about her mean-spirited behavior, which completely opened the floodgates. The comedian was then slammed by past and present employees with accusations of enabling a toxic work culture when the cameras weren't rolling, and found herself engulfed in accusations of bullying behavior by not only staffers but past guests, with some insisting her mean nature is common knowledge among the Hollywood elite. DeGeneres addressed the infamous toxic workplace scandal that saw 3 of her most senior staffers axed from The Ellen Show. One TV writer claimed that Ellen required anyone who talks to her to chew gum from a bowl outside of her office first, and that she often sends staff home to shower if she thinks they smell. Because of the negative publicity she received, the comic has had to wrap up her hit talk show after 19 seasons on air. Number 2, Armie Hammer. Among the new stars who have recently graced the big screen, Armie Hammer really stood out. He had a wholesome image with an all-American crew cut and absolutely killed it in his role as the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network. But it was his part in Call Me By Your Name that really made him a global star. Nothing is ever as it seems though, and he was very good at disguising his dark side. In January, a series of text messages were leaked of him detailing his fantasies of cannibalism. The actor also accused of attacking multiple women and named a suspect in an LAPD case which is still under criminal investigation. His former intimate partner came forward claiming that Hammer viciously attacked her over a period of 4 hours. And not long after, his wife Elizabeth Chambers left him and the facade of their perfect marriage fell apart. She has even called him a monster. The actor was then dropped out of 2 high-profile projects and is now residing in a resort on the Cayman Islands, potentially until the police investigation is concluded. And last one, coming in at number 1, Harvey Weinstein. He was once the king of the indie film world and the producer who dominated Hollywood for decades. Harvey Weinstein won awards for producing iconic films like Trainspotting and Pulp Fiction, but the truth is that he used his immense power and influence in the film industry to take advantage of women throughout his career. There were rumors about his predatory behavior, but they were not necessarily known to the general public. In fact, most people only found out about his double life after his downfall. The scandal exploded in October of 2017 when the New York Times released a report revealing that Weinstein had reached financial settlements with 8 different women who had accused him of predatory behavior. He had tried to squash the allegations with money, but as soon as he was exposed for doing so, his life and career crumbled around him. He was fired from his firm, the Weinstein Company, just before 13 other women came forward with similar claims. His wife, Georgina Chapman, left him, and in May of 2018, he turned himself in to the New York City police to face criminal charges. In February 2020, he was handed a 23-year prison sentence.
In at number 10, Margot Kidder. We mentioned Margot in our Actors That Lost Everything video, but her situation definitely merits being brought up in this one as well. Kidder was the original Lois Lane and dated some of Hollywood's leading men like Richard Pryor and even famous politicians like Pierre Trudeau. After suffering from schizophrenia and manic depression, she refused treatment, which ultimately led to her fall from grace. Plagued by paranoia, she would routinely sleep in cardboard boxes in backyards around LA in 1996. With her front teeth missing and her hair hacked off, she looked far different than her early appearances in Hollywood films. In at number 9, Sugar Ray Williams. From the late 1970s into the middle of the 1980s, Sugar Ray was the captain of the New York Knicks. He would also go on to play for the Boston Celtics for the 1985 NBA Finals. However, by the time that 2010 rolled around, the Boston Globe released a very sad report saying that Williams was found sleeping in the backseat of his 92 Buick in Florida. During an interview, Ray said that the NBA should be taking better care of their retired players, citing that he isn't the only one that needs the assistance. He would go on to say, "When I played the game, they always talked about loyalty to the team. Well, where's the loyalty and compassion for ex-players who are hurting? We open the door for these guys whose salaries are going through the roof." In at number 8, Bobby Driscoll. Bobby Driscoll rose to fame as a child star after appearing in movies like So Dear to My Heart, The Window, and Treasure Island. In 1950, he even won an Academy Award. However, 6 years later, he was arrested for marijuana and apparently for being in possession of other hard drugs as well. The saddest thing with Bobby is that much like other child stars, he quickly went from having all of the focus on him to having absolutely nothing. Not too much is known about what Bobby was doing after his arrest, but what we do know is that his body was found by 2 children in an abandoned building in New York. This was in 1968, so we're assuming that he had been living on the streets for a while at that time.
Number 7, George Michael. His talents as a singer, songwriter, and music producer made George Michael one of the world's biggest selling artists. He has sold more than 100 million albums throughout a career spanning almost 4 decades. But behind all of his success as a musician, George had a hidden life. In 1998, after he was arrested for alleged lewd acts in a public restroom, the star came out as gay. He told CNN, quote, "This is as good of a time as any. I want to say that I have no problem with people knowing that I'm in a relationship with a man." After years of refusing to be drawn on speculation about his sexuality, this was a very big deal for the singer. But he made no qualms about admitting how hiding his sexuality for so many years had taken a serious toll on his mental health. In fact, the singer suffered from severe depression after his partner died in 1993 from an AIDS-related illness, and only a few years later he also lost his mother. It was extremely sad that it took him such a long time to live authentically, but he eventually became well known for his outspoken views in support of gay rights, using his arrest as a platform to highlight the prejudices within society. Number 6, Tiger Woods. Even if you're not a fan of golf, you definitely know who Tiger Woods is, one of the biggest international sports stars of the last 2 decades. In 2009, he became the first athlete to earn $1 billion through a combination of prize money and sponsorships. He seriously had it all: a model wife, 2 kids, and of course fame and fortune. But in the same year, the National Enquirer accused him of having an affair with a nightclub manager, and Woods crashed his car into a neighbor's tree at 2:25 a.m. Why the reckless driving? Well, rumors circulated that his wife had learned about the affair and attacked him in their home, which made him too disorientated to drive. Over the next few months, many more women came forward claiming to have slept with Woods during the 8 years he was with her. He eventually caved to the immense backlash and issued a televised statement in 2010 admitting to everything. But it was way too late and his marriage was over, and some of his biggest endorsements were pulled because of the scandal. Number 5, Charlie Sheen. Known for his hard partying reputation and scandalous life, Charlie Sheen has been making headlines since the early 90s. But the actor had some pretty good PR and really managed to clean up his image after an alleged overdose that scared him straight, going on to marry Denise Richards and landing a comfy role on 2.5 Men. Sheen became a certified sitcom star and eventually welcomed 2 daughters, which really restored his reputation. But behind closed doors, the actor was back to his old habits and worse than ever. It was then that his marriage completely crumbled and the former couple announced that they were divorcing. During a bitter custody dispute later that year, she claimed that he had physically and verbally attacked her and threatened to take her life. As a result, she received a restraining order against him. He was subsequently kicked off 2.5 Men and replaced with Ashton Kutcher, not to mention his infamous 2011 meltdown where he attacked director Chuck Lorre. After that, Sheen's secret life became exceedingly public as he stopped hiding the fact that he had adult film stars over to his house and kept up his very hardcore lifestyle. It's important to note that through all this, he has checked into rehab multiple times for substance misuse and made very real attempts to get his dependency under control.
In at number 3, Erin Moran. At the age of 14, Erin was a household name. Her role as Joni Cunningham on ABC's Happy Days boosted her career into the limelight. Although unfortunately for Erin, the Happy Days did not last long. After falling on hard times, the Daily Mail released an article in 2012 showing a photo of the 51-year-old being kicked out of the trailer where she was living. According to the article, Erin's husband was tired of her hard partying ways and decided to kick her out. I mean, I don't blame him. The publication reporting on that said that Erin was bouncing from motel to motel around the country trying to stay off the streets. Later that year though, her and some former castmates of Happy Days sued CBS for not paying them properly for their merchandise revenue. Eventually they settled this in court, with each receiving a payment of $65,000. In at number 2, Rocky Lockridge. Rocky Lockridge was another boxing legend. He was responsible for serving Roger Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather's uncle, with his first big loss. That first round 98-second knockout gifted him with the WBA Super Featherweight Championship. Although his decline was slow and painful to watch, Lockridge had a terrible problem with drug abuse, and while homeless he suffered from a stroke, a devastating hit to his health that would force the former champ to start walking with a cane. His family had finally had enough of his drug abuse and decided to have an intervention.
I still love you.
Yeah, that is Rocky Lockridge. Sadly, this only turned the poor man into a meme instead of rejuvenating his outlook on life. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Gary Glitter. Gary Glitter was an English glam rock singer that achieved great success in the music industry throughout the 1970s and into the 1980s. He was known for his extreme glam image, suits made of glitter, makeup, and platform boots. People flocked from all over to watch his energetic live performances. It was rumored at the time that he may be a pedophile, but his fans stuck by him regardless. However, upon visiting Vietnam, Gary was arrested and taken to prison for sex-related crimes against underage women, where he served 16 years in Vietnam jail. Being locked up abroad did not exactly help his glamorous image. He tried to return to normal life at his home in England, but as you can imagine, was feared and hated by all of his neighbors. The world was made aware that this guy was a huge creep, and no one wanted to raise their kids anywhere near him. In at number 10, John Drew Barrymore. The son of the famous actor John Barrymore, as well as the father to Drew Barrymore, didn't exactly have the best life. Throughout his career as an actor, he was always being compared to the famous celebrities within his family tree. It probably also didn't help that his name is essentially a combination of both of their names. After struggling to book major roles, John eventually gave up on acting, but this didn't mean that he had a direction or new career path. Barrymore essentially became a homeless drifter. As his daughter was finding massive success in Hollywood, John would disappear and then end up in jail for either drug abuse or public intoxication. Sadly, he passed away from cancer in 2004. In at number 9, Debbie Clark. Also known by the name Storm, this celebrity was once a super athlete on the show American Gladiators back when he was big in the late 80s and early 90s. The show would pit various athletic contenders against one another in a series of physical competitions. Storm had performed on the show for 3 years before suffering a brutal injury that would ultimately end her career as a gladiator. For years following her moment in the sun, Clark would go from job to job. She tried working as a personal trainer, a chef, and even dabbled with country music. Although after years of career changes combined with the fact that she receives no royalty checks from the show, Debbie ended up on the streets. Reportedly, she has been living on the streets of San Diego with her son. In at number 8, Natasha Lyonne. Natasha had her breakthrough moment in acting at the age of 7 when she became a regular on the show Pee-wee's Playhouse. Following that, in her late teens, Lyonne was booking acting jobs at an enormous pace. Her biggest role though was when she booked the movie American Pie. For a while after that though, Natasha was in a dark place. First, she was arrested for drunk driving, then reports started coming out that the star was homeless. Additionally, she had been hospitalized with some very serious health issues that included hepatitis C, a heart infection, a collapsed lung, and methadone treatment, something that's typically used for only people that are addicted to heroin. Thankfully, she has made a comeback with her role in Orange is the New Black, but we can only hope that this harmful pattern of behavior is done for good. In at number 7, Sly Stone. At the peak of his career, Sly Stone was the biggest name in music. As the lead in the legendary funk band Sly and the Family Stone, he owned multiple homes throughout the United States. One of his properties was a full-on vineyard in Napa Valley. Although after being cheated out of millions of dollars in royalties, he was forced to start living in a van. Sly's record label confused him early on with contracts that he could never really understand. Without help and someone looking out for Sly, they essentially robbed him of everything. From 1989 to 2009, he received 0 royalty checks despite being responsible for hit songs like Everyday People and Dance to the Music. Thankfully, Sly's luck has turned around in 2016 when he was awarded $5 million in damages after suing his former manager and lawyer. Into number 6, Alex Lambert. This one is a bit of a debate, and depending on whose side you take, the stories are vastly different. Alex Lambert traveled from Texas to LA to pursue a career in music, and his first stop was an audition for American Idol. After coming up short and not winning that season, Lambert vowed to stay in LA until something happened with his music career. He has been quoted saying that he would rather live in his car than go home and give up on music. However, the PR at Idol production refuted that, saying that he's not homeless and that they don't know where that came from. The spokesperson added that Lambert had a development deal which meant that he should be able to pay for housing. In at number 5, Aram the Blade Barkley. Aram Barkley had an amazing boxing career, making a total of $5 million, but his retirement was not so kind. With no money coming in and the industry not taking care of its legends, Barkley was left penniless and unemployed. Come 2010, the New York Post was reporting that the former boxing champ was now homeless after being evicted from his Bronx apartment. Thanks to the work and support of the Bronx nonprofit Bronx Works and the boxing charity Ring 10, they were able to set Barkley up with at least housing and some assistance. Before that though, we had a boxing legend that was sleeping in subway cars and anywhere he could find on the streets. In at number 4, Houston McTear. He was once referred to as the world's fastest human after this 2-time Olympic qualifier tied the world record for the 100-meter dash, a record of 9 seconds that he tied while still in high school. After leaving Florida for Los Angeles, he even tried his hand at boxing with masterclass coaching from the likes of Muhammad Ali and Harold Smith. Although when America decided to boycott the 1980 Summer Olympics, it left McTear with no platform to stand on. Because of this, he fell into utter obscurity, drug abuse, and before long, homelessness. For a while though, he was found sleeping in various spots on Santa Monica Beach. In at number 3, MC Hammer. Apparently telling the government you can't touch this when they ask you to pay taxes is the wrong thing to do. In 1990, Forbes magazine estimated the rapper was worth a whopping $33 million. Reportedly, he had owed the IRS nearly $800,000 in back taxes. Plus, he was also spending his fortune at an enormous pace. He had a staff of 200 people that cost him a staggering $500,000 a month just to keep. Plus, he decided to splurge on a custom mansion that would end up totaling $30 million. After being plagued by lawsuits, the Hammer ended up filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and during an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, he said, "It's time to close out old business and stop being the lottery for people who see MC Hammer as this big celebrity with a bottomless pit of dreams for people." God damn. Imagine you start feeling like the lottery? It's only a matter of time before you file for bankruptcy. In at number 2, Toni Braxton. Even though Toni had sold more than 40 million records, a shady business deal resulted in her receiving a measly $2,000 in royalties. After various financial woes, medical bills, and chronic health issues, Braxton was forced to file for bankruptcy in 1998. A source told Star magazine that Toni was so broke she couldn't even come up with her rent money. This insider also said that she's definitely at rock bottom and that she's so desperate for money that she's hoping to write a tell-all book about her life that she can get an early advance for. It seems like health issues really did play a major role in her unfortunate downfall. In 2008, she was forced to cancel her Las Vegas shows due to ongoing health issues, forcing her into bankruptcy again. She was able to make a kind of small comeback, but then by 2010, she was filing again for business and personal bankruptcy. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Wayne Newton. With a few big hits in the 1960s and growing his fame as a Las Vegas lounge singer, the most this celebrity earned was in 1983. However, by the time that we rolled around to 1992, Wayne Newton was going bankrupt and was $20 million in debt. The self-proclaimed Mr. Las Vegas was able to work himself out of debt, but the financial issues didn't end there. In 2005, he was sued by the IRS for failing to pay $1.8 million on the sale of his house. Additionally, his 40-acre property was seized in 2010 after he once again wasn't able to pay off the $3.35 million loan that he had taken on to purchase it. In order to pay off the debt, Newton was forced to turn his home into a public tourist attraction. Kinda humiliating, but hey, he should have saved his money better.